Good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you may be listening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Onward to Victory podcast. I'm Joe Szymanski. He's Palmer Johnson and Palmer. I'm not even going to get into the semantics today. I'm not even going to. We just had a stretch where Mason goes 1-2 through the last three games of A10 play, including a very, very, very awful loss last night as we're recording this to the University of Richmond. Maybe the worst loss that we've seen Mason under Tony Skinn take in over a year, arguably. And Palmer, I'm not going to lie to you, Palmer. I'm not happy about this, Palmer. I'm really not. I'm very disappointed at how the team performed last night, but we'll get to that a little bit later because, Palmer, I got to be pissed off first about the first loss of this three-game stretch where George Mason blew an 8-point under 10 second half lead to Duquesne at home. Duquesne continues to be the torture team for the Patriots. Palmer, and it was Alex Williams. We've talked about big guards, big forwards at the four being an issue for the Patriots this year. Alex Williams really showed out, and he again kind of proved that point that Mason struggles with those big, strong foremen this season.
Yeah, those stocky, like not forwards, but like bigger wings. They just given Mason trouble all year. I mean, Jameer Tripp, Tyler Cochran. That's kind of the big ones, but it's just like uh, then Alex Williams. It's just somebody. It's just a weird. Mason does not have a body like that, you know, because it's like there are a lot of bios kind of that size. Troutman's kind of that size. It's kind of like is Jahari Long the best matchup there? You just don't know. It's just Mason doesn't have anybody built like that, and it's just a problem sometimes. Where it's like, oh, okay, well, Mason's fast enough for this guy, but not strong enough, or Mason's strong enough for this guy, but not fast enough, and it's just a matchup that they just don't have a really an answer to.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it, Palmer, but a very unpatriots like second half. I thought when Emmanuel Kanga, a great pass to Jahari Long, got an and one layup to put Mason up eight, I believe under 8 minutes to go at that point. I thought that was it, Palmer. I thought that was the dagger. We've talked about this being a second half team all season. And then just to go out and choke like that in the final 3 minutes of the game was disgusting. It was abhorrent. It did not show a lot of fight, which I think I was the most annoyed about. And maybe I'm, maybe passing under the rug. Corey Mincy, he hurts his hand during the game. He's able to come back in. He's clearly been affected by it these last couple of games. It's hard to miss with the gauze on his hand. But clearly, Palmer, that's still not a game that this team, in the way that they've been playing in this season, should have lost up eight under 8 minutes to go. That was, in my opinion, plainly unacceptable.
Yeah, Mason's not been a under skin. Mason has not been a blown lead team, uh, especially after year one. Year one had some blown leads, but year two and year three have not been a blown. Mason gets up and they're going to win. Mason very good at playing while they're ahead. And just felt like the balls have been bouncing Mason's way all season in these close games. And this one, it was the pass that almost gets intercepted does get intercepted, and it's just the pass that hits the guy's hands and drops the floor, picks it back up and puts it back in. Somebody else got that ball. Mason's they've been playing with fire for a lot of the season, and
Especially
finally,
in conference play. I feel
yes,
like that, and especially here in
yeah. I
conference
mean,
play.
they were playing with fire all season and got burned for the first time.
Yeah, certainly. Again, but just a frustrating loss, Palmer. That's not what I'm really mad about. We'll get what I'm really mad about soon here. But we will talk about the one positive, a strong defense performance against a really hot St. Joe's team on homecoming. You have to give it to the group. I think I haven't. There's not a lot of positives for me to talk about with this group in this episode, Palmer. But I think we have to give it to them on last Saturday on homecoming. You have to give it to the defensive effort that team showed. Did a very good job of slowing down a Hawks team that has been hot over the last 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I mean, this was if Mason lost all three, then they're if Mason lost this game, they're probably not. They're kind of 50-50 on a double bye. Uh, that was a massive game. sneakily like probably the biggest game of the season so far, just because of the double bye. I mean, it puts Mason, you know, St. Louis is the 4 seed like right now, so it's like that's a big, big, big win. Uh, yeah, they just kind of jacked up threes the entire game, and they went in early, then stopped going in because
Mm-hmm.
I think Sony pointed out Jaden Glover Toscano started 4 for 5, then missed his next 8. So it's like the defense really, really played well. And that was a Jahari Long game where he just kind of took over and did whatever he wanted. Uh, and it was also I'll give a little shout out. It was also a Devin Booker game. He played 8 great minutes, uh, just defending. And in a game like this, you need that defense. Uh, it stinks that he has to play. It's pretty crazy that he does have to play because there's in theory so many two guards, two threes ahead of him that he has to play. It's pretty crazy that he has to, but he played well in his little time.
Absolutely. And I think that will does show something. I mean, obviously, Tony's handling of the freshmen this season. Obviously, we kind of expected Emmanuel Conga to have probably the biggest role of a freshman Patriot since Baraka Okoji did. He's still not that level of role that Okoji had in his year here, but certainly Conga still has, I'd say, a role even bigger than Justin Beggs did last year as the Patriots' third point guard option. But Booker, unlike Bryson Coakley, he was probably the most comparable prospect freshman prospect that Tony's had so far to him. Obviously, Booker continues to get minutes. It's not always a lot of minutes, but he continues to get minutes as the season has continued on. I would take that as clearly he's showing something in practice. It's clearly not his shot, which desperately needs mechanical improvement, or he needs to get more comfortable with driving to the rim, whatever one of those two things may be. He needs to become a Fat Hill or he needs to improve his shooting. It's one of those two things, or else he's not going to see the court like he should. But the defensive effort is clearly there. I'm going to guess that is what's showing in practice. That is what he has improved on, I think, greatly since the start of the season when he had to have a couple of cameos because of injuries back then. But that is important there. But let's cut the positive bullshit here, Palmer. Let's cut it. Last night against Richmond was a disgrace for this basketball team. Look, if they hadn't lost to Duquesne, maybe I'm not acting like this. Maybe I'm like, look, Mason lost to Kingston last year. Around this time is when they had the really crappy, like 18-point loss to Duquesne in Pittsburgh around this time last year. I maybe could have thrown it off and said it's a one-off if they hadn't lost Duquesne. But the game against Richmond just felt like a coagulation of all the bad habits, the bad starts that we've seen from George Mason over the last 3 weeks. And Palmer, I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like since the VCU game where they won, it feels like this group has not put in a complete effort. And it feels like since the VCU game, this is a team that thinks they are better than what they are and that they can coast through these teams like Richmond. The struggles against Loyola Chicago and St. Bonaventure on the road. They've been playing, we've talked about, they've been playing with fire all year. Richmond, I think more so than Duquesne, was really the game where it all came together to finally get burned. And really, Palmer, the only player that I was not upset with personally was Fat Hill. He was really the only guy I wasn't upset with. If I'm being honest, I thought Fat last night. He showed his ability driving to the basket. He hit a couple of threes. He was energetic on the ball still. Fat showed up last night. No one else on the team did. Corey Mincy, I know you're hurt. I know your thumb's bothering you right now. I understand that's affecting your shot. I get it, but play better. You're taking bad shots right now. You're in your head right now. Get out of it. Get back to being the guy who got to the line 6, 8, 10, 12 times a game. Get back to driving to the hoop. You are a 3-level scorer. You showed it early in the season. He's got to get back to that, Palmer, in my opinion. Besides, Troutman has disappeared over the last 6 games of the season. He has been a near zero. I get it. Players go through shooting slumps. It happens throughout the course of the season. But again, that's another guy who has to stop focusing so much on long twos and three-pointers and get to the hoop consistently. I don't care if you're missing those layups, Masai. Show me some effort at getting to the basket. Maybe you get fouled. Maybe that's how you get back to yourself at the foul line. Riley Allenspach, I know you're probably dealing with it too right now. I know you're probably still dealing with that upper body injury that kept you out and missed time a couple of games recently. I get it. It happens. That's life. But you need to show us some improvement and focus on the defensive end. You're great offensively. We've known that since game one of the year. It's not been there defensively. The effort's still not there defensively. And that's the reason why sometimes it feels like putting Emmanuel Conga and Nick Ellington out there as a combination for 10, 15 minutes a night feels more effective, even though we lose an offensive part of our team. Jahari Long, I love when you go Superman. You won us basketball games in the conference this year. You were the crucial key in beating VCU at home. You were the crucial shot against GW. You won us homecoming against St. Joe's. But I'm a little bit tired of the roller coaster where you go from scoring 18 to 20 points to where you're scoring 2 and 4. You could get to the hoop when you want. Sometimes you have to be a little bit selfish, and we want you in this fan base to be a little more selfish because we know you can do it. To some of the bench guys, Malik Presley, Dola Adebayo, Stas Sivka. Come on, guys. One of you's got to show something consistently. One of you needs to be consistent. I love the effort from Dola on Saturday. Maybe is he not getting enough of a shot then after that? I think there's an argument to be made for that he should have gotten a longer leash than he did on last night, Palmer. I think there's an argument for that personally, that he should have gotten a longer leash last night. Stas, look, you got to either get a drive to the rim game or you've got to start hitting your threes at a higher clip. You're starting to look there. You certainly looked better at hitting your threes the last couple of games. But if you're going to be our defensive positional focus player, you've got to be that 100% of the time, not 80% of the time. Because the 20% that you're not looks really, really bad. Malik Presley, come on, man. We saw the energy at the start of the season. You've looked better coming off the bench the last 2 games. I'll give you that. But you've got to make better decisions offensively and around the hoop. You do have a good first step. You get a good job at getting to the hoop. Just you got to get out of here. You got to get out of it and make the shots. Make your shots. And I know you think that, and I know you're probably thinking that right now. You don't need some, 5'9" fat guy like I am to be telling you this stuff. You don't need that. But come on. Make your free throws. Make your shots. You're a D1 player who came from Vanderbilt in Texas. You can do that. And I'm even going to talk about Tony Skinn here, Palmer. Tony, you've got to figure it out with the starting lineup. You have to figure it out. The slow starts has become a problem. It's been a problem since after the VCU game. It feels like we've started slow almost every game. And against Richmond, it kind of finally bit us in the ass. Truly. It was 31-9 at one point, Palmer, in the first half. 31-9. It's unacceptable for a team who has shown us how good they can play to be down 31-9 to a team that had lost 6 straight and was 3-8 in conference going into the game. It has to be on Coach Skinn, in my opinion, a little bit to get these guys motivated. Tony, you're a great second half coach. We've known that. Me and Palmer have known that since game 1 that you've been here. You're a great second half adjustments coach. You need to show you're a good first half coach, though, too, and get these guys in the game and put the right lineup up to start to get the team in the game. Malik Presley was in there too long. I'm sorry to say, and I think now it's turning out to be like Masai Troutman has been in there too long. I get that some players may be better coming off the bench, and maybe that's true for Fat, but you've got to give it a chance with him starting, I think. You have to give it a shot with him starting. Because you know what? When I am so scared right now, Palmer, because this is a team that has shown how high its ceiling is. But this is a team that looks like they're going to end up like last year's Dayton team, back up into the 3 seed, and then get their butts whooped on Friday night on CNBC in the A10 tournament in Pittsburgh by a 6 seed that's hungrier and wants it more. Because right now, Palmer, I don't see this group doing anything in Pittsburgh. They don't look hungry. They don't look motivated. People are putting their heads down. They're not getting their hands into guys' faces on 3-point shots. They're a step behind everything. And you know what? I'm kind of tired of it, Palmer. I'm tired of the slow starts. I'm tired of feeling like that every game we need to come back by 10 or 12 points to win the game. We need complete effort on this team, and it's not showing up right now. It's just not. And it's frustrating. It is. And I'll keep repeating myself. We know the ceiling with this team is high. It's higher than last year's team. Last year's team was an elite defensive team that could not score. They could not score consistently. I love Team 59. I love them to death. I do. But they could not score consistently. They won games through an elite defensive effort that would be hard for any team to replace. I do not blame these guys for not being as good defensively as last year's team was. Jared Billups and Woody Newton for an A10 team are not, I hate to use the word generational here, but I can't really think of any better word for this. But they are not generational defensive players for an Atlantic 10 team. Those are pieces that are hard to replace. I do not blame that those two pieces have been hard to replace and the defense isn't at that same level. But this group is, and well, on paper, was built to be and is better offensively than last year's group. They're not showing it right now, and it's because of their effort, in my opinion, Palmer. And I'm going to give it up to you now. I'm going to end my rant. I'm going to give it back to you.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the base has been turning it over a ton lately. I feel like a lot of players are almost on autopilot, where they have like a pass they've already decided on when they've gotten the ball, like on the weave, and then the defender jumps it, and it's like that guy was never going to be there.
I feel like Masai Troutman has made at least 5 of those passes over the last.
And he after his first one against Richmond, he got pulled and didn't get back in. Yeah, that's happened a lot, and it's kind of like, you can't just make a pass because like that's the pass you're supposed to make. You got to make sure it's the right pass. You gotta, and maybe it's a problem of like maybe don't make the offense so easy to predict. But I mean, yeah, it's happened so much lately. David Dixon felt like he got like 5 of those steals. I think that were all steals, but they were at least deflections where it was like, oh wow. Yeah, the turnovers. I mean, the turnovers have been crazy. The big men were all like almost barely turning it over. Or I'm sorry, there was a lot of barely not turning it over, and those have turned into turnovers. Alan Spock would always somehow not turn the ball, like would get doubled and pull the ball back to himself just as soon as the guy gets there. Now it feels like that guy's getting that ball now. Presley is, I mean, it's so hard for a non-shooting, non-big to really do much on offense. And as you pointed out, he has a great first step. The problem is the defenders don't really care because, I mean, he's not going to pull a 3. It's not going to pull a 3 in their face. So it's really hard for him to just do much on offense. And I wish he would just like go to the hoop instead of doing that weird pivot, which it has its time in place.
Just go.
It has its time in place, but I feel like it's kind of like if there's anybody at the rim, instead of like attacking and, as you said, maybe you get fouled or something like that, it turns into a lot of, pivot, and now it's like, okay, well now you're stopped and everybody knows you're going up for right now. We did see, I will say, the one positive from yesterday is Mincy got hurt again. No, sorry, the positive, not Mincy got hurt again. That's a big negative. That's a problem. We saw Fat Hill point guard minutes, and those were the best.
They weren't bad. They weren't bad, Palmer.
We saw one Presley point guard rep where he brought it up. He got stripped, and either the foul was on the steal or the foul was on the when he went for the ball.
I know foul was on the steal. I know exactly what you're talking about.
But it didn't look good. So Fat Hill, like this, he might need to start playing. He might need to with Mincy. I don't know Mincy's injury. I don't know if he's coming back. I don't know if he's playing next game. I'm just gonna guess he's listed as questionable. But Fat, I mean, the assist rate always has looked really high. Like on paper, he always looks like this guy could play point guard. And then when you watch him, you're like, probably not. It might be time to just see what happens. If Mincy's out, then he's absolutely the backup point guard if Mincy is out. Just because it gives you that. I mean, it feels like sometimes it's just like, oh, free offense button because he's going to get to the rim, and he's great at getting to the rim, and he's sneakily like a crazy good finisher. He makes like NBA finishes every game where it's
And he's suddenly
yeah,
shooting like 86% from the free throw line too.
which doesn't is not real. That doesn't feel real. SA
But
doesn't
he's
feel
done it on
real,
54
but
attempts
he's
now
done
in
it so
conference
much.
play. It
He's done
has
it
to
so
be real.
much. It's real enough where like I don't expect it to end at 86 now, because we talked about this like a month ago. We don't expect it to end at 90. If it's 75, we're totally fine with that.
Yes.
We just need it to be high enough where like it's not like a strategy to foul him. Like Presley, I like Presley, but if he's open, if he has a semi okay shot at the rim, it's absolutely worth it to foul him because you're kind of happy if he makes one of two. Uh, yeah, I mean, Fat Hill had his best game of the season, and it's kind of for nothing. Like Mason didn't get anything out of, or you're he was a big wild card, and he had his best game of the season, and they still lost by 12.
Yep.
Uh, and the game wasn't that close. The game was it
No.
said the score says 12. Richmond was kneeling on it for the last 10 minutes, just
Yeah.
realizing. I mean, they Mason cannot win if we just take 30 seconds off the clock and they hit a three. Like the Mason still can't win. Yeah, I mean, Richmond hasn't really been a problem. Because
They're
skin year
not
one,
good.
but I mean, even in when Mason year one of Tony Skin, Mason loses by 5 on the road to Richmond when Jordan King just was throwing up Curry threes and they were going in.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what can you do? Then they blow him out at home on senior night. Jared Phillips has that crazy block on Quinn.
Yep.
And last year, that Richmond team is worse than this year's Richmond team, but not by a lot. And Mason still beat him both times. So Richmond hasn't been like Duquesne makes sense because like Duquesne's amazing. Duquesne's a skin killer, whatever. That makes sense. Richmond hasn't been. That's what really surprised me.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. Now, Palmer, I think it's interesting that you mentioned Corey Mincy potentially being questionable for Friday night. I will be in attendance. I don't think you'll be there. I will be there on Friday night, though. I'm coming to DC for that, of course. I can't miss it. It seems, though, it's very plausible that both teams' leading scorers are out. It was originally, Chris Caputo originally said that it was day-to-day for Rafael Castro. As of their game last night against Rhode Island, which they almost blew but pulled out, Castro was still in a boot, and I think crucially here, Palmer, is still on a push scooter. They're not letting him put weight on it. Like, they're not letting him walk around in the boot. Like, he's on a push scooter. So whatever it is, they're being very cautious with it. So it is tremendously possible if Mason decides to rest Mincy. We know Corey. He's a tough guy. I was hard on him for last night, which is deserved, but he's a tough guy. He might try and eke it out because we know who he is. But it's not impossible for Friday night against GW that both teams' leading scorers are out. I think it's almost a certainty that Castro will be out, and it's at least 50-50 on Mincy.
Yeah, I don't blame Castro at all. I think it's absurd that Caputo said day to day when because he said, as you said, he said day to day like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he was in a boot in a scooter. And I know what he's gonna say is he's something like, well, every player's day to day. We just don't know how many days it is, something stupid like that, where it's like, oh yeah, everybody's questionable, something stupid like that. Yeah, that's really unfair to Castro that his coach is kind of, oh, he could be back any day, and it's like, well, he's not going to. Yeah, I mean, GW's played really badly with Castro out. 36 minutes a night from Luke Hunger is not what you want, because Luke Hunger is an okay backup. He can't be your starter first. He can't be in 36 minutes. That's just not how that works. Maybe last year you can kind of get away with it with Luke Hansen, but Hunger is definitely a step down from that. And I feel like there's so many guys that could step up for GW, and they just kind of haven't. I mean, last game against Rhodey was their first. I mean, they went 7 deep last game, by the way, that's shades of
Mark Schmidt.
St. Bonaventure right there. Yeah, Mark Schmidt.
And I
But
want
I
to point
mean,
out too that Richmond was without Jameer Tripp, who's arguably their second best player on their own team as well. And
yeah,
Rhodey is a weaker team, even with Casper out. I think Rhodey's a weaker team, but to add Tripp out on top of that, I think is important to mention there.
yeah. Also, shout out Archie. They scored 18 points in the first half, and then scored like 52 in the second, which is just okay. Also, like, Caputo, what's going on there? You gave up 52 points and a half in a game where you gave up
That's
18
been
in the
their
first.
defense all year, though. This is really the
Yeah,
interesting thing. The George Mason offense has been god awful the last 2 weeks. The George Washington defense has been god awful the last 2 weeks. It is the immovable object versus the movable force, Palmer. That's what this is. So Friday night's gonna be really interesting. But then we talk about struggling teams in the A10 who had high expectations. Let's talk about Dayton, Palmer. We haven't talked about Dayton at all on this program. But something has gone wrong very clearly, I think, in Dayton, Ohio this season. And there's going to be a lot of questions, I think, whether that job, and I think would be deserved to, if that job opens up this offseason.
yeah. I mean, the big problem has been they kind of don't know who their center is because Latang was kind of everybody's preseason breakout pick, uh, and he's been okay. He's coming off an injury. There's a chance that he's more injured than we really think he is, and like there's a reason. There's a chance that he should not have been playing the last couple weeks. But their backup center is Malcolm Thomas, who's a fine backup center, but he played 3 minutes last game, uh, and so they're just kind of playing like whoever at center. Played uh, Connor is like a very theoretical player who sounds. There's this idea of a great player going 2 for 11. I'm sorry, which is crazy. But Connor's just kind of a nothing. Kind of
I hate Jacob Connor, if I'm being honest.
okay.
He's
He
like
just kind
one
of
of my least favorite non like A10 players in the league this year. I don't like him. He's not, especially at a school like Dayton. I wouldn't give a shit if he was at like LaSalle or St. Bonaventure or something like that. That's not a player who should be getting 20 minutes a night at Dayton. It's just not. I don't get it.
and you can blame like roster construction, but also like Anthony Grant. You built this roster. Like you knew who Jacob Connor was, and you still decided like let's let it ride. Uh, it's just one of those guys where like the body doesn't match the skill set, but instead of getting like the best of both worlds, you get the worst of both. Kind of like the inside outside defensive tackle who is too small to play out, too small to play inside, but too slow to play outside. Uh, and the last game they missed to Shane Montgomery, that's kind of their guy.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the guy who decides if they win or lose games. If Montgomery has a bad game, then they lose.
Yeah.
If
Montgomery has been their only somewhat decent 3-point shooter this year at about 37% on 97 attempts. Palmer, there is no one else who's taken more than 50 attempts who has better than 35% 3-point shooting.
yes,
Javon Bennett is at 31.5% on 168 attempts this year, and he's 32% on 75 attempts in conference. That's not good for Dayton. In fact, many people would call that a real problem, and it is because I want to point this out. Dayton have not finished outside of the top 100 since Anthony Grant's first year here, which is a more understandable thing. You know, it was pre-COVID, pre the portal explosion, where you kind of had to like rebuild the team from the ground up still when a coaching change happened. Uh, so, you know, big problems there. Dayton is currently ranked 100th right now. It feels very likely that if they lose their next 2 games, which is not impossible, they've got Davidson Sunday, Mason Wednesday. That feels not impossible, quite honestly, Palmer. That Dayton could do that, and that would, with what their end of the season is not fun. They've got St. Louis, GW on the road, Richmond on the road, and VCU for their last 4. So it's not a very fun end of season either. Yeah, this doesn't look good for Dayton. It's actually probably a more winnable game, arguably, than GW on the road. I would actually be significantly more pissed. if we lost that game. So don't
Yeah.
make me more pissed. I think that's just the general overall of this podcast, Palmer. Let's not
Yeah.
make each other more upset. Let's
Yeah.
go into this 2-game stretch. Let's win both, and we're all going to be happy again. You know it will 11 wins. It'll basically clinch a double bye in that scenario. In reality, do all that. I would be okay, Palmer. I would be breathing like a normal human being. I wouldn't be talking about this like it's the end of the world. But they have to win, Palmer. They have to win. If they don't
Yes.
win, it's going to be a problem. But
Yeah.
go ahead,
I'm
Palmer.
noted. I am seeing. I was saying Latong's been pretty disappointing. He's a 31% turnover rate in conference play.
Oh,
Uh,
holy shit! Does he really?
yeah, which is
Oh my God!
yeah, that means like every single time he gets double,
He
he's
had
losing the ball.
6 turnovers against VCU.
Yeah.
What is this guy
Uh,
doing? This is
so
what you get
yes,
for depending on the French. You see, this is what Dayton gets for depending on the French. Should never do that. It's a bad decision. Anyways, though, I think we're going to leave it there, Palmer. Now, we've got a little bit of a weird one here. Mason will have a week off heading into after Dayton. They'll have a week off. They have their first weekend off in a while here, Palmer. They do not play any games on the weekend of the 21st and 22nd. They have a full week off until they play St. Joe's in sort of Philadelphia at Hagan Arena. I will be there. I plan on being there this time, barring any like wintertime disease or anything like that. I plan to be there, but again, so that means we're also kind of taking a break a little bit. Palmer, there will be uh no Monday podcast next week. There will be none of that. You won't hear from us until not this upcoming Tuesday, but until next Tuesday, because of the break. So we're also going to be like the Patriots, going to be taking our little off weekend. So we won't see you guys until closer to the end of the month. But for now, I want to thank everyone for listening today. Thank you for watching. Go green and gold. I'm Joe Samansky. He's Palmer Johnson. This is Onward to Victory from Giant Killer. Palmer, 6 games. That's all that's left in the conference season, Palmer. There's 6 games left. Kind of crazy when you think about it, but it means we're almost there to Pittsburgh. Palmer, I got my credential this weekend. I will see everyone in Pittsburgh for the Atlantic 10 tournament from game 1 to the last game on Sunday. I'm going to be there. I'm Joe Samansky. He's Palmer Johnson. Thank you for listening, everybody.